Good evening, everybody. Welcome in to Live and Learn. Hope you're doing well on this Monday, January the 27th. We have a lot to get into. Almost the end of January, if you can believe it, and only one football game left in this year, which is sad. It's sad. But we had two interesting games yesterday. One was very much a classic, you might say, and you also had a interesting NFC Championship game where the Eagles it was a lopsided score. That game was closer than what the score really dictated. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, we have a lot today. We got those two games. We've had some hirings in the NFL since we last spoke. Only one team without a head coach going into next year. The Australian Open has come and gone. Two winners this weekend. Some good tennis. Alex Pietrangelo has withdrawn from the Four Nations. People are upset. Not me. I'll tell you why. A blockbuster trade in the NHL that I did not see coming. Stunner. Logan Thompson got a deal from the Capitals today. One of the best Canadian goalie on the planet right now, one might argue. So, lots to dive into, lots to chew on before we wrap up tonight's show. We'll say before we get going, went and saw the Rimouski Oceanic play the Moncton Wildcats this weekend. Very good game. Two very good teams. Rimouski is hosting the Memorial Cup, so they're going to be in the Mem Cup regardless. Moncton very well could be in it. They are the best team in the queue right now. I've been to 3 or 4 games, all Moncton Wildcat games this year. But it was a good game on Saturday. What I'd say to people is get out and watch. I'm not saying I'm not a Wildcat shill. I don't care. Go watch the Sea Dogs. Well, yeah, probably get a cheap ticket. The barn sucks, but go watch Bathurst before they leave and go to the Newfoundland. It's good hockey. The Moncton Wildcats have a player who's going to go in the top 10 in Caleb Denoyer, who's number 6 on Craig Button's draft board right now. Good player. But Rimouski beat Moncton 5-3. They have a deep team. They play like a team. Both teams are on a back-to-back. And Rimouski was the worst game I've seen Moncton play this year live, for sure. And Rimouski was game. But it was very entertaining. Two really good teams. Both teams have some guys that very well could be pros eventually. I know Moncton plays Drummondville the end of February. I'm going to try to get to that one because Drummondville is the second best team in the queue when it comes to point percentage right now. But good games, entertaining games, and it was a good watch. Okay. We're going to go reverse. Typically, I go quick hits, then we get the headlines. I'm going to go just with feature stories, and we're going to come back the tail end of the show to minor things that I want to touch on. Championship weekend in the NFL. People liked Eagles, Commanders, or Washington football team, but it was Chiefs-Bills. The 4th time Chiefs-Bills are meeting in the playoffs in the Mahomes, Josh Allen era. 2 years ago, the Chiefs beat the Bills at Orchard Park in Buffalo in an absolute just thrilling game. And full disclosure, I went 0 for 2 on picks this weekend. I had the Commanders. I had the Bills, and I knew going in picking the Bills it was a mistake because here's the thing. I was going to come on here and bitch about the officials because I do think the officials made a mistake. But that's what everybody wants to do. So I'm not going to do that. I thought about it today. And I said, no, because I want to touch on Patrick Mahomes and his greatness and less about the officiating. Because Tom Brady got a lot of calls in his day. A lot of calls. They changed rules for Tom Brady. The tuck rule led to the Patriots winning their first Super Bowl. But the Patriots got calls, but they were also one of the best dynasties, one of the best teams in the history of pro sports. And I think just saying they got all the calls really reduces what they accomplished, reduces what they stood for and what they were, which was a great team with great talent. I believe, looking back, that they were under, at that time, I was a Dolphin. I hated the Patriots. Hated the Patriots as a Dolphins fan because I was jealous. And I wish that the Dolphins could win 8 games, let alone get to a damn Super Bowl, let alone win one. It's unlikely that Patrick Mahomes is going to win as many games in the playoffs as Tom Brady did. Tom Brady played 23 years, and he won 35 playoff games, which is incredible. Just to play 23 years is an accomplishment in and of itself. Patrick Mahomes is in his 8th season, and he sat out one of those years. Probably played 1 game in his rookie year, where Alex Smith was the starting quarterback. In 8 seasons, Patrick Mahomes is now the second all-time leading player in playoff victories. It was Brady, Joe Montana. Mahomes passed Joe Montana yesterday. In 16 seasons, Joe Montana won 16 playoff games. Mahomes did that in 8 seasons. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl on February the 9th, Mahomes will have a Super Bowl every other year that he's been in the league. 4 of 8 seasons. 50% chance he's going to win a Super Bowl. Crazy. If the Chiefs win on February 9th, they'll be the first team ever to three-peat, which will also make them the greatest team of all time and the greatest dynasty in the NFL history. Not a debate. Mahomes has mediocre regular seasons. Yet in those mediocre regular seasons, more likely than not, he wins his division. More likely than not, he will get the number 1 seed, and the playoffs will run through Arrowhead Stadium. Going 15-2 this year, playing with a busted up ankle down the stretch. And yet they still won their games. They still overcame. They beat Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. They beat the Texans 4 days before. They played 3 games in 11 days, and they won all of them. They had a rest going into the playoffs. They didn't play for almost 3 weeks. Didn't matter. Beat the Texans. Week later, doesn't matter. Beat the Bills. The Red Hot Bills. It's the Bills season. No, it isn't. Mahomes had his best game of the year yesterday. Passing, using his legs, and oddly enough, he committed the only turnover, and Josh Allen didn't have any, and the Chiefs won the game. The first game this postseason where the Bills won the turnover battle and lost the game. Mahomes doesn't flinch. He doesn't get nervous. He's cool, calm, and collected. He makes the right play at the right time. Travis Kelce had 2 catches yesterday, and yet it didn't matter. The way they schemed the game was brilliant. They had people step up at the right moment. Xavier Worthy had over 100 scrimmage yards. He's a rookie, and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster had 2 huge catches for 60 yards. The first drive, Hollywood Brown had 2 catches. On the last play of the game, to sink the victory, Samaje Perine, who didn't have many snaps, catches a pass for 17 yards and a first down. He also ran the ball 11 times for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. He makes things happen. Tom Brady is the most accomplished. Tom Brady will be the most decorated football player ever. Patrick Mahomes is the best football player ever, and there's a difference. I'm not there yet, but if the trajectory of Connor McDavid continues, there might be some who view him as the greatest hockey player ever. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, happy belated birthday, will always be the most accomplished, will always be the one with the statistics, with everything that makes you jump off the screen. Absolutely. But McDavid might be better. To me, Mahomes is the greatest football player of all time, and he's only played 8 seasons. He's not done. He doesn't have to win another game. He is already in the Hall of Fame. He's already the second best quarterback ever. It's incredible what he's accomplished, what he is as a player. And the Chiefs are often maligned. Oh, Taylor Swift, Caitlin Clark, going to the Mama Kelsey, going to the box. I don't like that shit either. I want to watch football. But Mahomes doesn't control that. The Chiefs don't. Taylor Swift doesn't control that. That's CBS wanting to show them 85 times a game. I don't want to see it. Maybe the 45-year-old housewife does, and it keeps her watching the game, which bully to her. But what the Chiefs are excellence. What the Chiefs are unique. I appreciate them going to 3 straight Cup finals. I'm not bored of it because I'm not bored of greatness. The Islanders winning 4 straight Stanley Cups in the 80s is a story of legend, going to 5 straight Stanley Cup finals before finally, after 5 in a row, the Oilers could beat them. That tale of Wayne Gretzky winning his first Stanley Cup is not the same story without beating those Islanders. Finally taking it away from them after losing the year before. The Chiefs have a chance to do something nobody has ever done. And while you could say this Super Bowl does not have a personality because we saw it 2 years ago, I'll tell you what the story of it is. The Eagles can ruin a three-peat. The Eagles can get revenge for losing 2 years ago. How about another storyline? Who's Jason Kelce rooting for in this game? His team, his former team, his city, or his brother? Does that sound like an easy answer? I don't think it is. Who's he rooting for? I don't know. Anything. There's storylines galore. It's just about having the necessary brain capacity and not being just a lazy, pardon my French, schmuck to find them. the Chiefs again. Oh, my God. I'm so sick of them. Patriots fans didn't get sick of watching the Patriots because you loved your team. And you know what? It made me more invested when I was a kid because I fucking hated them. And you know what? I got to watch them again. And maybe, just maybe, Nick Foles will beat them. Give me some sense of relief. Maybe the Eagles can do it again. Eagles did it to Brady. Maybe they can do it to Mahomes. There's intrigue. There's interest. It's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest game of the year. The Saints could be playing in it, and people are invested. This is about greatness for the Chiefs, for Mahomes, for Andy Reid. He now has the most playoff wins ever. Any coach, Andy Reid. He's got the most wins in Philadelphia Eagles history for a head coach. He's got the most wins in Kansas City Chiefs history for wins. That's pretty good. Right behind Belichick as the greatest coach. That's what they're doing. Something that will never be, I remember saying, I said this, there'll never be another Patriots. We might have a better version right now. 3 in a row? 3 in a row. That's never been done. Brady didn't do it. Brady lost Eli Manning twice. So the narrative of there's no storylines, it's the Chiefs boring. You don't love greatness. You don't love sports all that much. You don't. Tampa getting 3 straight cup finals. That was in hockey. It's a great story. Oh, it's Tampa. It's not a hockey market. To me, they're a hockey market. They're winning. Who says you need to have snow on the ground to be a hockey market? If you're winning, you're a hockey market, period. Buffalo's a hockey market. They made the playoffs in 14 years. Who gives a shit? I'd rather go to a game in Sunrise or Tampa than go to Buffalo or went over this. Toronto, the crowd last week, that crowd's a bunch of fucking corporate stiffs. Okay, they're a great hockey market. They went fuck all. Who cares? We need big brands. The Chiefs are the biggest brand in pro sports, period. And their storylines galore. They are greatness. That's point and the period. For the game yesterday, I will address this. I feel for the Bills. Josh Allen looked jittery from the start. That first drive, he's lucky he didn't throw 2 interceptions. He never looked completely settled the whole game. He made a couple throws that were just uncharacteristic. He loves to heave a ball up in the air. He did it about 3 times. And I'm not saying they lost because of Josh Allen, but I don't think it was his best game. And I think you need to be great when you're going up against the best. And Josh Allen is the modern version of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning hardly ever beat Tom Brady. And eventually he did. And eventually they won a Super Bowl in Indianapolis. And maybe Josh Allen and the Bills will win one in the Mahomes era. But Josh Allen seems to fall back in these big moments, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't. Patrick Mahomes doesn't flinch. Josh Allen had multiple moments. The odd thing, the Bills fumbled yesterday 4 times. They recovered all 4 of them. The Chiefs fumbled once, and the Bills got the ball, and yet the Bills still lost the game. The irony of that. James Cook was phenomenal. I don't know why they didn't give him the ball more. He could have been banged up, but down the stretch, their play calling in the last couple minutes, hated it. But he ran the ball 13 times for 85 yards. That's 6.5 a clip. And yet he didn't touch the ball after the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. He had 2 touchdowns. That's just, it's a mistake. I mean, I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. Get him on the field. Unless he doesn't have a leg and he only has one, he's on the field there. The other big moment, the call. About 8 minutes left, 4th and inches. They go for another quarterback sneak because they couldn't go for enough of them before and didn't convert, but they decided to go for one again. It was a first down. I don't care what anybody tells me. I've seen the video, saw it live. It was a first down. I got into an argument with my mother about this. It's not the reason the Bills lost the game. I'm not going to say that because I think it does a disservice to Kansas City. But was that a first down and did it change the game? Yes. If they get that first down, it's 8 minutes. Kansas City got the ball, and 5 plays later, they scored a touchdown. 5 plays later. So it absolutely changed the game. And was it a first down? Yes. Do I think that the Bills got screwed on that one? Yes. The other play where Xavier Worthy looked to catch the ball at the 5, I don't think he caught it. But here's the thing. That doesn't change. It's not an interception. It doesn't really change the game. There was already a flag on the Bills on that play. So it was pass interference. So it's 15 yards down the field. And so it would have been first and 10 at the 15 or the 20, around there. So very close. Kansas City very well could have still scored. So I don't think that changed the game. That call, Bills fans, spare me. But that fourth down tush push, number one, I hated the call. I mean, they did it about 4. I just mentioned they did it so many times and it didn't work. They did it on the 2-point conversion. Didn't work. Ultimately, the Chiefs had the better quarterback. The Chiefs had better play calling. And the Chiefs' defense showed up in big moments that the Bills' defense really didn't. Because Josh Allen got the ball with 3.5 minutes left. He picked up 1 first down with his legs, then first down, incompletion. Second down, pass knocked down. 3rd and 10, completes a pass for 5 yards. And then on the 4th and 5, Spags dials up a perfect blitz. He has to heave the ball in the air, and Dalton Kincaid dropped a big first down pass. It was a drop, and it was a miss. Chris Jones was unreal. I think he's playing hurt. Doesn't matter. He's still great. Karlaftis had a really good day, kind of containing the edge and not letting Josh Allen kill the Chiefs with his legs. Who else was who I really liked? Nick Bolton had a good game. Yeah, Nick Bolton had a very good game for the Chiefs. That defense just shows up. Spags might be the best coordinator in the in the NFL, pardon me. And he just knows how to win. 2 Super Bowls in New York, 3 in Kansas City, looking for his 4th as defensive coordinator. But Josh Allen's now 0 for 4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. It's brutal. It's pain. 100%. I feel for them. Because you felt like this was your year, and Josh Allen, you can make a strong argument as the MVP, and yet you're still not in the Super Bowl, and you're still looking for answers. But they have a good team. Losing Benford was a huge loss for them. It was a huge loss. He obviously was concussed, and he had just passed concussion protocol coming into the game, and he was really out of it. So I felt for him. But their defense just wasn't as good. They didn't have as many playmakers. They didn't have a plan for Mahomes running. They fell for the same play twice for big yardage on that boot end around. They didn't have a plan for it. They didn't see it coming. Don't know how. But I don't think this rivalry's over. Kansas City's always there. Kansas City's always there. And Buffalo's always there too, to their credit. They've won the AFC East the last 5 years. So they put themselves in a position to be in the playoffs and to be in the mix. But they've had home games. They've had road games in the playoffs. Doesn't matter. They don't seem to get over the hump. And it's not all on Josh, but he does have to look in the mirror and go, some of this is on me. Because he wasn't as good as he could have been. Just like Lamar wasn't as good as he could have been against the Bills the week before. Mahomes doesn't seem to have this game where he's just terrible. I don't think Josh is terrible, but again, you got to be better. Old cliche, but it's a game of inches. And it is in a lot of ways. But an awesome game. Instant classic. These two teams always deliver. They play each other again next year in the regular season in Buffalo. So we get that matchup again. Two teams with the home schedule. With the first place schedule. But Kansas City survives in advance, and they will play for their third straight Super Bowl on February 9th against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, who trounced the Washington football team 55-23 at home. The game was closer than this. And the crazy thing is, Jaden Daniels was great. I thought he had a really solid game. They didn't lose because of him. They lost because of his teammates. The Commanders had 4 turnovers. The Eagles scored a touchdown on every one of those turnovers. While the Eagles continue, they've had a turnover in 3 playoff games. They're perfect. They don't turn the ball over. They control the clock. They control possession. And they have the best running back in the sport, in Saquon Barkley. So the game's close. Saquon breaks a 60-yard touchdown on the first Eagles touch of the game after a 18-play field goal drive for Washington. Barkley goes for a house call. And Then you had another Eagles touchdown, this one by Jalen Hurts. So Barkley scored a couple plays later. But the Commanders kept fighting. You had Jaden Daniels hit McLaurin on a slant for a big touchdown, made that a closer game. You had the Eagles score some points, and it was 20-12 with a $1:42 left in the half, and you had Jeremy McNichols returning a kickoff. He could have took a knee in the end zone, but he brings it out. He runs into Will Shipley, who's a running back but plays on special teams, former running back at University of Clemson, really good player. Ball pops loose, recovered by the Eagles, and a few plays later, it's touchdown, Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown. It was soul-crushing. That play, to me, changed the game. That play killed what, yes, Washington got a field goal before the end of the half, but Philly got an early touchdown in the third quarter. Hurts had 3 rushing touchdowns yesterday. Barkley had 3 rushing touchdowns. And Will Shipley had another great day for him. Good story, his first career NFL touchdown in the NFC Championship game. The number 3 running back on the depth chart, but with Kenneth Gainwell hurt, he got some snaps. Commanders' defense wasn't as good as that Eagles' offense. That offensive line doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have Landon Dickerson hurt or Cam Jurgens hurt. They can still dominate defenses. And if Saquon Barkley gets a couple blocks, he can run for 70. He can run for 80. Doesn't matter. He's just that type of athlete. He's that type of good. Jalen Hurts was awesome yesterday. There's still times you look at him and go, throw the ball. Let it rip. You had time. You have A.J. Brown, who's a monster. He can catch it. But he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He was 20 for 28 in the air, 246 yards, 1 touchdown. But A.J. Brown had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 96 yards and a touchdown. And I just thought Jalen was efficient. He made some big throws. Dallas Goedert, 7 for 85. He continues to be a great postseason player. And they're a formidable team, the Eagles. They are the best roster in the league. They were from the start of the year, and they get to the Super Bowl. Lots of hiccups. Fan base hates the coach. You have fan base at times hating their own quarterback. Wide receivers hating the quarterback on this team, A.J. Brown, not Jalen Hurts' best friend. And yet, it doesn't matter. They overcome it. They don't have to play Detroit. They get lucky with that. They don't have to meet up with them. And they reach their second Super Bowl in 3 years. No Jason Kelce this year. He retires. Doesn't matter. They get back. Play 3 home playoff games. Win them all. Those Philly crowds were phenomenal. And Saquon Barkley. He is 30 yards away from becoming the leading rusher in NFL history for most rushing yards in a season, regular season and postseason combined. He gets 30 yards in the Super Bowl, he will break that record set by Terrell Davis, which is a pretty incredible thing to do. He only ran the ball 15 times yesterday. They didn't need him to run all that much. But when he did, he averaged 8 yards a clip, and he had 3 touchdowns. Let him rest up. Now has a week to prepare. His birthday is on Super Bowl Sunday, his 28th birthday. The New York Giants let him walk to Philly. And now he's in the Super Bowl. He's had such a great year. I think he's a really good guy. Just seems like a good dude that is a great teammate, fun to be around, and gets it done, quite frankly. He's a Barry Sanders type where he just gives the ref the ball. He scores a touchdown. He doesn't do a flip. He doesn't do a million different things. He's on to the next play. He will play in his first Super Bowl on February the 9th. I'm happy for him. The saga in New York and paying Daniel Jones and not paying him. He gets the win in the end. For Washington, great year. Nobody thought you'd make the NFC Championship game, and you did. You have a quarterback for the first time in a long time. Robert Griffin III was great for a while, but then he got hurt. Jaden Daniels is not the same as RG3 to me because I think he's a smarter quarterback and he avoids hits a lot better than RG3 ever did. And I think Washington's team, I think Adam Peters did a really good job, don't get me wrong. But they signed a lot of veteran guys hoping it would work, hoping that they'd be better than the Cowboys, which I predicted, by the way, before the season. I think they go this far, but I thought they could be a playoff team because I like their roster. But if you look at Washington, you look at Buffalo, the Eagles, Chiefs, Washington has the worst targets, in my opinion, for their quarterback. I love Terry McLaurin, but outside of that, Zach Ertz, hell of a year, hell of a playoffs. Competed his tail off, a veteran tight end, former Eagle. He had 11 catches yesterday. 11 catches for $104 for Zach Ertz. Credit to him. But you look, De'Ami Brown. It's been kind of came out of North Carolina, hasn't been all that good. Fumbled yesterday, bad fumble. Zacchaeus. Eckler's a scat back, third down running back at this point of his career. They really don't have anybody outside of McLaurin that scares you. Now, hopefully they can find somebody in the draft this year to really bolster this team, or go out to free agency or trade for George Pickens. There's options. But the sky's the limit for this team. It starts with the quarterback. I think Dan Quinn's a good coach. I think they played hard for him. I think deserves a ton of credit in year one to build this team the way that they did. Bobby Wagner was a smart signing, a veteran who's had a ton of experience in the NFL. But they shouldn't have got this far, and yet they did. They deserve a ton of credit for that. And they're better than the Cowboys. They're better than the Giants. At worst, they finish second again in the division next year. Could very well be a playoff team. They should be a playoff team again. In particular with Jaden at the helm. Eagles, Chiefs. It opens up Chiefs -1.5. The game is in the Big Easy in New Orleans. We'll break down the game as we get closer. We obviously have the bye week. Then the game's a week from Sunday. All of Super Bowl week, we'll have all that talk. I expect it to be a good game, to be competitive. The Chiefs will have a better setup than the past two opponents to stop Saquon Barkley. Because like I said, I will take my chances with Jalen Hurts. And he might beat me because he was really good against Washington. But Trent McDuffie is better than any corner that Washington has. Marshawn Lattimore was more concerned with taking somebody's head off or taking a penalty than he was yesterday in stopping A.J. Brown or doing anything somewhat intelligent. It was about him. It wasn't about the team. They traded for him. It didn't really work out. He looks a bit spent, and I think he was played selfish yesterday, quite frankly, and just wasn't a team guy. But McDuffie on A.J. Brown, you got that great Chiefs pass rush going up against the Eagles. What's Jalen Hurts' mobility gonna be like? He didn't have to run much yesterday. He had 10 carries for 16 yards. He ran when he got close to the goal line on the tush push. Andy Reid's former team. Mahomes knows this team, knows this team. These two teams know each other quite well. So as we get closer, we'll break it down, but I think we get a good Super Bowl. And like I said, there are storylines. You just need to think about it a little bit and not go, well, these two, we've already seen this. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I've seen Goodfellas probably 20 times. It's a great movie. I don't get sick of watching it. It's a great film, one of the best films of all time. I've watched The Office, I've watched Seinfeld 25 times. More than that, probably 40, 50 times through. I've watched Curb Your Enthusiasm 10 times, likely. I don't get sick of watching stuff if it's really good. And typically, if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, it's a good game. Chiefs playoff games are typically good because there's drama. They're close. Things happen. I'm in. I think it'll be exciting. But as of right now, on FanDuel, we got 2 weeks for this to change. It is Chiefs minus 1.5. Neutral site in the Big Easy. I don't know if that line's going to change. It didn't move for the Bills game. I think it's going to stay Chiefs 1.5. Odds makers had the Chiefs as an underdog in their last 3 playoff games last year. I bet on them every time, and they not only covered but won. They were a 1.5 point favorite against the Bills. They covered, winning by 3. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this stay the same, Chiefs minus 1.5 when it comes to kickoff. I certainly don't think that the Eagles will be the favorite by the time the game starts, but I could be wrong. But a fun championship Sunday. 2 really good teams get to the Super Bowl. You can't complain about that. New Orleans, Kendrick Lamar. Not for me, but it shouldn't be for me. The halftime. I guess it probably should be for me. I'm 26 years old, but I don't care about Kendrick Lamar. I was with friends yesterday. They introduced me to a song about Drake, so I thanked them for that. It was okay. I'm not the biggest Drake fan, so I'm okay dissing him. But I couldn't name you another Kendrick Lamar song. I remember he was on with Eminem at the LA Super Bowl, and he just felt out of place. I don't know why he was there. But he's big on the scene. I think Lil Wayne would have been a better pick, but that's just me. Lil Wayne's from New Orleans. Lil Wayne is very accomplished. Legend, some might say. I would say. But again, I'm not Jay-Z and his record label picking who does the halftime shows. So what do I know? But we'll see. in less than 2 weeks when the Super Bowl arrives. Other NFL news before we move on to other topics. On Friday, a bunch of different things happened. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Pete Carroll as the team's next head coach on a 3-year contract with a fourth year as a team option. So Pete Carroll, who didn't coach last year, had coached the Seahawks for over a decade. Now he's back in the game. Coaching Vegas, Tom Brady clearly wanted a veteran running the team. Pete Carroll, you have Marshawn Lynch, who's also kind of in the ownership with the Raiders. So he was at the press conference today. Their new GM, John Spytek, was also introduced to the media today. Tom Brady's buddy at Michigan / the Bucs. This is the Brady effect. He's running things. Of the guys available, I think the Raiders are a long way from being a super competitive team. And this is a good culture builder. This is a guy that can put you in the right direction. The Patriots are having a lot of success before eventually they fired Pete Carroll and hired Bill Belichick, and then they started to win. So I like Pete. If you listen to Luke Wilson on TSN, he waxes poetic about him all the time. He said he loved playing for him, a really good head coach. The Raiders have the 6th pick in the draft. This draft is interesting because there's really 2 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. I don't know if either of them are all that good. I think they're okay. I don't think either guy's a home run Hall of Famer, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. But I think the Raiders want one of them. I think the Raiders want Shedeur. Shedeur's worked with Tom Brady this past summer, so they have that connection. So do the Raiders try to move up? Do the Raiders feel that they could get him with the 6th pick? I wouldn't rule that out. I think Cam Ward will be gone before the 6th pick, but I'm not sure that Shedeur Sanders will be. You see a lot of mock drafts being released. Right now you had Daniel Jeremiah, who's as good as it gets at it. He had the Raiders picking Shedeur with the 6th pick. He had Cam Ward going number 3 to the New York Football Giants. But the draft's in April, but I think that's Vegas either drafting a quarterback or potentially looking at the Sam Darnold route, signing him to a shorter term, bigger money deal. They do have Brock Bowers, who's awesome, as good as it gets at the tight end position. They don't have any elite wide receiver talent. They don't have a great running backs. Their offensive, they don't have a great team, quite frankly. And that's why it's a longer turnaround for me. The Raiders. It's going to take some time. And by the time they're good, Pete Carroll might be retiring because he's 74 years old. He moves around like he's young, but he's 74. And it's a factor. That's why it's a 3-year deal with a 4th-year team option. But I like Pete Carroll. I'm good on the Raiders because of the candidates available, it's hard to pass up a guy that's won a Super Bowl. The Jaguars. What a interesting sequence this was. They wanted to interview Liam Cohen, who was the Tampa Bay Bucs offensive coordinator. He said, "No, I'm not taking your interview because your current GM, Trent Baalke, fires coaches left and right, and people don't like him around the league. He's got a negative feel, and it's just he's not my GM. I'm not coming in." So Liam Cohen was then going to sign an extension with the Bucs to become the highest paid coordinator at football, reportedly over $3 to $4 million a year. just to be the OC and call plays in Tampa. But then the Jags fired Trent Baalke and said, no, come back for interview. You don't want him, we'll get rid of him. Come back. We need you as our head coach. But the Bucs said, if you sign this deal, you can't talk to the Jaguars again. So Liam Cohen ghosted the Bucs, wouldn't take their calls, told them that one of his kids was sick, which I think was true because his wife went on Twitter, but it's all very iffy. He got on a bird, went to Jacksonville, met with the Jags, and they signed a deal. He then had to call Todd Bowles later that night and say, yeah, I'm taking the Jaguars job. So people in Tampa are pissed, and I get why they're pissed. The Jags are thrilled. They introduced him today. Cohen announced he'll be calling plays next year for Trevor Lawrence. But the Jags still look discombobulated because they fired a GM after saying they weren't going to fire a GM, which just incompetence 101. But Liam Cohen, who's coached with the Rams, he's coached at Kentucky, he's coached in Tampa Bay, he now becomes the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They get their guy, the next prodigy, the next big head coaching hire is now in Jacksonville. Mission number 1, fix Trevor Lawrence. Right now, the thought is he's a bust. He was a bad pick. He ran a sheltered offense at Clemson. He can't translate to anything else in the NFL. Make that not true because they paid him a lot of money. They had a disastrous season. We'll see what Liam Cohen can do for the Jags. And the Dallas Cowboys on Friday night at 10 o'clock, it was between 10 and 11. So I was watching college basketball and I get this alert. Dallas Cowboys hire offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer as next head coach. If you know the name Schottenheimer, it's because you know the name Marty Schottenheimer. He coached college, pro, had some success more in college than the pros. Schottenheimer didn't call plays. Mike McCarthy did. Schottenheimer has never been a head coach at any level. They interviewed Robert Saleh. They interviewed Leslie Frazier. Both guys have been head coaches. They talked to Kellen Moore, who was their OC way back when, now the OC for the Eagles. They talked to Jason Witten. And Schottenheimer gets the job. And I want to find the quote from Jerry Jones because this, you can't write this. Jerry Jones is just the gift that keeps on giving in his stupidity. I saw it, Schefter had it. I'm going to pull it up for y'all because this is worth it, me scrolling while I kill time here. This is 100% worth me finding because I find it hilarious. I think you'll find it funny too. Let's see. Okay. This is it. Jerry Jones on hiring Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer is known as a career assistant, Jones said. True. He ain't Brian no more. He is now known as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Not a coherent statement, but also that he's been known as an assistant his whole life. He's not anymore. He's now the coach of the Cowboys. Is he going to work? No. No, he's not going to work. You kidding me? This is another Jason Garrett. I can see it now. Jerry loves him. We had him here. He's a great guy. Okay. He's a puppet. He's a guy with no authority. with no say, and he's just going to do whatever. He's happy to be there, happy to get the check, happy to be a head coach. Dak Prescott has the highest cap hit in football next year, coming off an injury. They have to find money to pay Micah Parsons. They're going to have majority of their cap paying 3 players. They're basically the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL. They're not going anywhere. Brian Schottenheimer. This team will not win until Jerry's in the grave. I will maintain that position. Good for Brian Schottenheimer. I don't think it means anything when it comes to them winning. Not happening. Other news, Robert Saleh returned to San Francisco as their defensive coordinator. So after his stint with the Jets, he returns to San Francisco to work under Kyle Shanahan to try to turn around that side of the ball that struggled this year. And he becomes the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league, so good on him. Good return to the Bay Area. Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator for Houston, got fired after 2 years. Kind of a surprise. He was getting head coaching interviews. But he ultimately gets fired in Houston. And Matt Eberflus, who was the head coach of the Bears, he got a job the other today as well. He is defensive coordinator with the Jets. I believe they hired him there. So Eberflus back in the mix, back in the game. Good on him. Also, the owner of the Eagles is trying to buy the Boston Celtics, Jeffrey Lurie. So that's it, because the Celtics are on the market. So lots of stuff happening in the NFL, as always. Only one team without a head coach, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Mike McCarthy reportedly will interview with them this week. The Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver's interviewed for the job. Mike Kafka, the New York Giants quarterbacks coach, it's not a desirable gig. It's bottom of the list for the 30. It's 1 of 32, but it's closer to 32 than it is 1. Cap hell, bad quarterbacks, not much talent, really old roster. Mike McCarthy's got the experience, but if I'm Mike McCarthy, I don't know if I want to be back in if I'm coaching this team. They just had a defensive coach in Dennis Allen, so I don't know if they'll give the job to Anthony Weaver. He had a really good year coaching the Dolphins, and their defense that was actually really good this year. But I guess it's not a desirable job. I'm sure they'll fill it before the Super Bowl. They may want to announce it on Super Bowl week because they are hosting it, so to give some good publicity to the Saints. We'll see, because they don't have a whole lot right now, quite frankly. Okay, that's a lot of football. So Friday night, I see that the Cowboys hire Brian Schottenheimer. I laugh about that. And then I see Frank Saravelli and Elliot Friedman, a bunch of insiders, tweet out that Mikko Rantanen is being traded to the Carolina Hurricanes, which is baffling to me. I'm like, this can't be real. Mikko Rantanen being traded to Carolina. Takes about an hour. It's a lot of moving parts. Chicago gets involved as a third team. They get their third-round pick back. They take on 50% of Rantanen's salary. And ultimately, the deal gets done. I'm going to read out the deal for you. Find it here in my notes. Okay. So Colorado gets Martin Nakash from Carolina, good winger, on pace for 90 points this year. Jack Drury, a 2025 second rounder and a 2026 fourth rounder. Carolina gets Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall, and Chicago gets a 2025 third, and they retain 50% of Mikko Rantanen's salary. Mikko Rantanen is a pending unrestricted free agent. He had been in negotiations with Colorado for some time. And, there's discrepancy now on what is true and what's not. Reportedly, he wanted somewhere in the $13 to $14 million range. And quite frankly, I don't blame him, because he's one of the best wingers in the league. However, Nathan MacKinnon signed a deal on September 20th, 2022 to pay him $12.6 million per season. His deal expires in the 2030-31 season when he's 35. And Colorado said, we are not paying you more than Nathan MacKinnon. This is not about McKinnon's ego. This is about a team setting an internal cap. And I know if you're listening to this and you're a Leaf fan, you go, I don't understand this. I get it. Just stay with me for a minute. They said, we're not doing it. And Mikko Rantanen never asked for a trade, didn't expect a trade that night. But they clearly believed that a deal was not going to be found. And they traded him to Carolina. Carolina, who never does this, never aggressive. But in the offseason, they let their GM go. They brought in a new guy from Columbus, Eric Molsky. And he's aggressive, and he makes it happen. And he doesn't have to take on the full salaries, so it doesn't kill them when it comes to their books. And just remember this. Mikko Rantanen was a free agent the same time as Mitch Marner. This is right after Rantanen was winning a cup, by the way. And Rantanen had an 8-year deal, and his cap hit this year is $9.25 million. So he was due for a raise. We all knew that. But he took far less than another winger. Just comparing it to Mitch Marner. I'm not comparing the two players when it comes to talent. Although, if you want my answer, I'll give it to you. Rantanen. But he took far less money than Mitch Marner at that time. Helped Colorado win a cup, to be fair to him. But now he's up for a new contract. After taking less, I think he wants a bigger chunk of pie. Don't blame him. They came out, press release, and said, we have been negotiating with Mikko, but we never thought we were going to get to the number that would have been good for him. So we traded him and got assets while we can. Martin Necas makes a little over $6 million for this year and next year, so you get him for a couple of years. He's on pace for 92 points this year. He played 2 games for Colorado over the weekend. He had 2 points in those 2 games, a loss to Boston, and a win against the Rangers. He's also on the same line as Nathan MacKinnon and Jonathan Drouin to start his Colorado Avs career. Mikko Rantanen spoke to the media today. He didn't agree with Colorado. I want to find his quote directly because it's telling. When he spoke, and he was very upfront. Was blindsided by trade. I was willing to take a significant discount. I was willing to take a significant discount from my market value, Rantanen said Monday. We had some chats a couple days before, and then they traded me. ... That's why I didn't expect it. So, what I find interesting is Colorado, I'm sure, plans to win a Stanley Cup this year. I don't think they will, but I think they plan to do that in-house. And yet they still traded one of their best players. Still have Makar, still have McKinnon. They're two best players, but Rantanen's their third best player. He's one of the best wingers in the league, period. And you don't go for the cup run with the better player. Because you've seen teams lose a great player, but you win a cup along the way. You try to win one, and then he walks for nothing, which can be a stupid move, but it's also, well, you're trying to win, and that's where you are as a group. And I do think that's where Colorado's at. I like Marty Nikash. As I said, he's on pace for 90 points. It was rumored he was going to be traded out of Carolina this past offseason. He ended up signing a bridge deal to stay. He had a hot start, was leading the NHL in points at one point. He's tailed off, but he's on pace for 90 points, which would be a career high. So he's a good player. He's got a good shot. He's a playmaker. He's not a bomb by any means. Jack Drury, being quiet. He's a center, does have some upside. Bottom six, third line center, probably at best. But you get a 2025 second round pick that could be something and a 2026 fourth. I get it for Carolina. You're trading Marty Nikash anyway, probably this summer. Jack Drury, who cares? A second round draft pick, they get picks. They find picks. They're a great drafting team, Carolina. They scoop up talent. Forever, they didn't do this. Trade deadline would come, they do nothing. Or they pick around the edges and they play with their food. This year, it's January, it's before the Four Nations, and they go, we're going to get Mikko Rantanen. And we're going to give him a couple months to figure out how to play with this team and see if we can win a chip. He gets to play with Sebastian Aho. He gets to play with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, with his fellow Finnish countrymen. They will get to play with each other at the Four Nations, more chemistry, and then come back, and Carolina is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Their biggest issue remains goaltending for me, whether that's Freddie Anderson or Korchkov, but they're better today than they were yesterday with Mikko Rantanen. I don't think there's a chance in hell Mikko Rantanen's re-signing in Carolina, and it's got nothing to do with Mikko Rantanen. It's got everything to do with Carolina and their finances. And different ownership groups treat things differently. And I don't blame them for not spending that, because some teams just can't, and that's economics. Some teams don't make as much money as Toronto, Montreal, and New York. And fan bases can get upset with that, but it's the reality of the situation. So Rantanen is a rental for Carolina. They are okay with that, and I'm okay with that too, because they have probably the best tactician as a coach in the league in Rod Brind'Amour. They have an awesome defense core with Jacob Slavin, who is just the heart and soul of that team. They play hard up front. George, they know how to play. So I like the aggression. I like them doing this. I don't like it for Colorado because I think it pissed off Nathan MacKinnon. And now I think they're like a lot of other teams around the league now. They need a number 2 centerman, and they don't have one. Casey Middlestad's a great number 3 center. He's not a number 2. So can they convince JT Miller to not go out east and go play in Colorado? Maybe. Does he have a better chance to win in Colorado than he does in New York? Oddly enough, I'd say no. The Central Division is tough. It's tougher than the Atlantic. the toughest division in hockey, quote unquote. Colorado, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Dallas. Utah's not a great team, but they're not a bad team. But those four, that's tough. Good luck with that. Getting through that, getting to the playoffs. Colorado, they're likely going to be a wild card team. Maybe. If not 2 or 3. Play Dallas in the first round. That's no fun. Play Dallas in the first round. If you're a wild card team, you could potentially play Winnipeg in the first round. And yeah, Winnipeg got pumped last. Winnipeg's better than they were last year. So Colorado needs to find another centerman. And it's tough. Because their team didn't get better with this Rantanen trade. But they didn't want to lose him for nothing. Which tells me they have an internal cap, and I credit them for that. But if he was willing to take 12-7, 12, if he was even 13, which is more than McKinnon, I would have signed him. Because he's one of the best wingers in the league, and that's only $400,000 more. Him and McKinnon are best buds. McKinnon sounded deflated after that game against Boston. Just like, what the hell? I've been playing with him forever. Now he's gone. I've watched Colorado most of their first 2 games. Netcash got better in the second game. Rangers, Carolina tomorrow night. It's a good litmus test. I want to see how he looks, how he's fitting in with life, sans Nathan McKinnon. Because it's different. You used to have one of the best players in the world as your centerman. But I don't think he's a one-trick pony. He's not a guy that only scores goals because McKinnon passed him. He's a workhorse. He gets pucks. He's a force on the ice. But that was a stunning trade. Love to see it. Love to see a hockey move. They can happen. Why Colorado got involved, beyond me. But they're a stupid organization. So who knows? Maybe that's why. Other hockey news, Jacob Markstrom out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee sprain. He's going to miss the Four Nations face-off. He could be back by the time New Jersey is back from the Four Nations, so mid-Feb. Could return. Until then, Jake Allen will hold down the fort for the Devils. So now Jacob Markstrom out for Sweden. Likely Linus Ullmark, who hasn't played in over a month, not going to play for Sweden. So that they're going to have 2 goalies that they're going to have to replace, which likely means Philip Gustafsson of the Minnesota Wild is going to be getting majority of the games for Sweden at the Four Nations. It's a good opportunity for him. He's been having a good season in Minnesota, but that's just an update there. Also, last night, Alex Pietrangelo announces, his representatives, Alan Walsh, announces that Pietrangelo will miss the Four Nations face-off to deal with an ailment that he's kind of been going through the last little while. Well, he played last night against the Florida Panthers. He logged over 20 minutes, per usual. And people in Canada are upset. Ooh, why isn't he playing? Ooh. He played 24 minutes last night. Why isn't he playing? Ooh. Let me tell you this. They're not playing for a goal. I don't know what they're playing for. What are they playing for? I get into jokes with my mother about the bowl games. And at least you know what you're playing for. Pop-Tart Bowl, you're playing for a Pop-Tart. Tony the Tiger Bowl, you get a bowl of cereal. All right? You know, you're playing for the Old Spice Bowl. Okay, give me some friggin' armpit stuff. I can throw that under there. I smell better when I leave the arena. Four Nations, I don't know what they're playing for. Is it a trophy? Is it a banner? Is it Is it a Jimmy hat? I mean, what is it? I don't know. Do they know? Are they getting cash? Is it for money? All I know is it's Four Nations and it's instead of the All-Star game. Players don't sign up to play hockey to win the Four Nation. They sign up to play hockey to win the Stanley Cup. That's the dream. And Alex Pietrangelo won 2. You know what's better than 2? 3. And Vegas could win the cup this year. So if I'm him and I want a break, and yeah, he probably is dealing with something because he plays a ton of minutes a night and he's 35 years old. Yeah, I could use the break. Sidney Crosby can go play the Four Nations because he's not going to be playing in April because his team sucks. So they're not going to be in the playoffs. And other guys that might pull out, you might go, okay, well, that's your choice. You've never played. Alex Pietrangelo has won a gold medal. He's represented his country. I have no issue with this whatsoever because I don't know what they're playing for. Jeff Probst on Survivor says, want to know what you're playing for? And he tells you every time what you're playing for. This tournament, I don't fucking know. Wheel out the Pop-Tart Bowl from Iowa State, Miami, and then maybe I'd be invested. I don't know what it is. Am I going to watch it? Yeah. But is it a tournament that just sparks intrigue and I go, oh, I got to see this? No. He doesn't want to play. Good for him. Heal up. Try to win a cup. I have no issue with it. This is not, not patriotic. I love being patriotic. I'm a Republican. I like to be patriotic. He wants to play hard for the team that employs him, that pays his salary, that he has a chance to win with. That's just intelligence. Like I said, Sidney Crosby, these other guys, Sidney Crosby's season's going to be done mid-April because he's on the AARP Penguins and he doesn't want to be traded. Okay, go play the Four Nations. Great. McDavid wants to play it. Okay, good for McDavid. I'm fine with anybody who wants to go. Pietrangelo not playing, good on him. Doesn't have to. He's won a gold medal. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's going to try to win a 3rd. I have all the time in the world for that. Skipping of Four Nations. Spare me the, why aren't you playing in this? What are you playing for? Don't know. Survivor, reward, I know when I'm playing for a cheeseburger because JP tells us, playing for a cheeseburger. Okay, I'm pretty hungry. Give me a cheeseburger. Also, Logan Thompson, who was not named to the Four Nations for reasons I still don't know, signed a 6-year extension with the Washington Capitals today for almost $6 million a year. He is the second best goals against average in the NHL. He is the second most wins behind only Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. He was traded from Vegas in the offseason for a 3rd-round pick. He's been phenomenal. Washington has the best record in the league as of January 27th. They are first in the Eastern Conference, first overall. Great story. Spencer Carberry, very much a front-runner for the Jack Adams Award. But Logan Thompson, 27. The Caps lock up a goalie they really like. They don't let him hit unrestricted free agency. This makes all the sense in the world. Get a good goalie that can play number 1 minutes, never gets hurt, can play in the playoffs, won a cup with Vegas in a rotation with Adin Hill. Great stuff. Love it. I love Washington. They're fun. They're chasing history with Ovechkin, my boy. But it's a smart business from the Capitals. They keep a guy for a long time that's a good goalie. Vegas kept Adin Hill. Adin Hill made the Four Nations. Logan Thompson didn't. Logan Thompson should be the starting goalie night 1. The funny thing here, if Pietrangelo was a goaltender and pulled out, Logan Thompson would be added and would start game 1 over Binnington and over Adin Hill or Montembeault. But Canada didn't pick him. And he had better numbers than those 3 guys at the time. Good story. Good on Logan Thompson. Australian Open. Sinner. He's won back-to-back majors. in New York and in Australia. He's won back-to-back Australian Opens. He's the king of the hard courts. He is going to win whether he's juicing or he's not. You can make a strong argument he's the best tennis player in the world right now. He's great. Beats Zverev straight. Poor Zverev can't win the big one. I do think Zverev will win a major by the time his career's over, but he's always there. Consistent. Women's draw greats, Madison Keys. Madison Keys beat Sabalenka 7-5 in the third after losing the second set. Her second major final, her first major final since she was 22. She's now 29. Just got married. Awesome emotion from her. I love the whole thing because Sabalenka smacks her bracket, and you could see that as her. She wasn't being unsportsmanlike. Sabalenka is passionate, and I think everybody got what she was going for 3 in a row. She was going for Kansas City treatment. And she didn't win in a really close match. And Madison Keys played great tennis. They both played great tennis. That was great. I was up at 4:30 in the morning watching this match. It was phenomenal. And she kind of showed some frustration, and I loved it. And then Keys, even Sabalenka said that Keys was great today. I wanted it so damn bad or something like that. And Sabalenka even was funny after saying, yeah, like, no loss is ever my fault. It's all on my team. She said that in jest. It was great for Madison, an American woman winning a major. Great story. Kind of gets flushed because of the NFL weekend. But great story for her and awesome to see. Good Australian Open. Good start to the year for tennis. This week, Wednesday night, we will have a show. We will do that one around this time live. We'll talk some NHL. We'll get into the golf season that's been a quiet start. We got a couple big tournaments coming up in golf. We have the Pebble Beach Pro-Am this weekend. Pebble Beach, one of the best courses in the world. And then Super Bowl weekend, my favorite event of the year, the Waste Management in Arizona. Oh, the scenes. I love that spot, the Waste Management. You have that in the afternoon leading up to the Super Bowl. It doesn't get any better. So 2 great weekends in a row. We'll tee up the field on Wednesday's show of the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Scotty Scheffler will be making his season debut after hurting his hand, cutting his turkey for Christmas. Praise Jesus. And so we'll talk about that. We'll get into – there's an NBA story with Jimmy Butler that I want to talk about because it's interesting. So we'll talk some NBA as well on Wednesday, and any other NFL news that comes along the way, we will get into. Thank you for hanging out today. Fun show. Hope you enjoyed. I was a little fired up tonight, a lot of energy. So I'm happy to be here with all of you. Thank you for the support as always. Give us a like, give us a review on our Live and Learn Apple/Spotify pages. It helps. Let us know what you like, don't like about the show. Until Wednesday, take care. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is the Live and Learn podcast.